The Saudi crown prince visits the White House with zero controversy whatsoever. A Democrat civil war is brewing, again. And California wins the gerrymandering war, simultaneously defeating both Texas and democracy. That and more on this week's America Uncovered headlines. Welcome to America Uncovered. I'm Chris Chappell. My fellow Americans, terror is once again upon us. It is the Christmas season, which means Mariah Carey is thawing out. But aside from earworms, we have to worry about supporting America's arch nemesis,
China!
That's right. You want to share a little holiday spirit and then boom! That awesome Robert Cop toy you bought turns out to be made in China and you just helped the PLA buy a new fighter jet. So this Christmas season, buy American. And I want to help you do it. I'm putting together the first ever unmade in China Christmas shopping catalog. It'll be full of products made in the US of A and other friendly countries that are also standing up to the CCP. To fund this shopping catalog, I need your help. Join Operation Take Back Christmas on my Give, Send, Go page. Become a revolutionary retail shopper, an anti-big tech patriot, or a soldier in the American Liberation Army to get exclusive benefits. The link is below. And remember, all I want for Christmas is you. To like and subscribe! With all the economic anxiety, political division, and endless reminders about human trafficking thanks to the 24/7 chatter on the Epstein files, I figure it might be time to start this episode on a lighter note, something familiar and cozy. Abortion! Okay, it's not cozy, but in this country it sure is familiar. South Carolina lawmakers held a hearing to look at the most restrictive abortion bill in the U.S. The bill, called the Unborn Child Protection Act, would repeal exceptions for rape and incest and could send anyone who receives or assists in an abortion to prison for decades. Well, it's time for a mass exodus from the state. South Carolina has officially become the Handmaid's Tale. I've never actually seen or read The Handmaid's Tale, but I've heard other people talk about it, and it sounds like it has something to do with this. I mean, a story about women being forced to dress like this from head to toe and being exclusively valued as breeders? Sounds just like the kind of thing Christians would do. I'm glad nothing like that actually exists. But before you panic, this hearing was only the first of many steps for this to become an actual law, and it didn't even advance out of subcommittee. So pro-choice advocates can breathe a sigh of relief, at least for now. Though I'll admit, I am a little disappointed, because this means we can't put the Game of Thrones showrunners in jail, because that last episode was the biggest abortion I've ever seen. Speaking of people accused of committing horrific crimes, Saudi Crown Prince Mohammed bin Salman. The White House hosted the Crown Prince. There, President Trump grilled Salman about Saudi Arabia's human rights abuses, censorship, and... I'm just kidding. The two seem to get on famously, with the two nations brokering multi-billion-dollar deals. And I wouldn't be surprised if Trump asked to headline next year's Riyadh Comedy Festival. How are you going to have a McDonald's-colored poster and not invite the Master Fry Guy? This was the Crown Prince's first visit to the White House since the 2018 killing and dismemberment of Saudi Washington Post journalist and Salman critic Jamal Khashoggi by definitely not Saudi agents. Nope, no way. And reporters had some things to say about that, among other things the Saudis have been accused of.
Your Royal Highness, the U.S. intelligence concluded that you orchestrated the brutal murder of a journalist. 9/11 families are furious that you are here in the Oval Office.
Upon hearing this, Trump realized that this may be a bad look and they should get to the bottom of these accusations and hold those responsible accountable. You know I'm just kidding. Roll the rest of the clip.
Oval Office. Why should Americans trust you? And the same to you, Mr. President.
Now, who are you with?
I'm with ABC News, sir.
You're with who?
ABC News, sir.
Fake news. ABC fake news.
Vintage Trump. He isn't a lame dunk. He's on a retirement tour, busting out his greatest hits. I'm surprised he didn't also hit her with "You're fired" or "Rosie O'Donnell's a slob." And when asked about Epstein, Trump unleashed even more on the ABC reporter.
I think you are a terrible reporter. It's the way you ask these questions. You start off with a man who's highly respected, asking him a horrible, insubordinate, and just a terrible question. And you could even ask that same exact question nicely.
Oh, so it wasn't what she asked, but how she asked it. Got it. She should have said, Mr. Crown Prince, can you please tell us why you made that reporter go choppy choppy? Trump stuck up for the Crown Prince against these allegations.
You're mentioning somebody that was extremely controversial. A lot of people didn't like that gentleman that you're talking about. Whether you like him or didn't like him, things happen, but he knew nothing about it, and we can leave it at that.
Okay, calling a dismemberment things happen has to be the most wild yada 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 I've ever seen. That'd be like calling a mass shooting, you win some, you lose some. The CIA concluded that Salman ordered Khashoggi's assassination, but Trump disputed those findings in 2018 and apparently still does today. Which is crazy that Trump would take the word of a man credibly accused of having a journalist killed. After all, Trump is known for having a deep-seated respect and polite disposition when it comes to reporters.
Quiet.
Then there's no delicate way of saying this, so I'll just say it. The 9/11 of it all. 15 of the 19 September 11th hijackers were Saudi citizens. Osama bin Laden was from Saudi Arabia, and his father had close ties to the Saudi royal family. Of course, this doesn't necessarily mean Saudi officials had anything to do with 9/11, except that new evidence suggests 2 lower-level Saudi officials may have deliberately assisted 9/11 hijackers. The same new evidence also shows that the CIA and FBI may have mishandled evidence when they initially reported that the Saudi officials helped the hijackers unwittingly, not knowing they were terrorists. So I see why Trump may not trust the findings of U.S. intelligence. That and the whole them trying to completely destroy his life thing. Russiagate hoax, anyone? But what does the Crown Prince have to say about this?
Based on CIA documents and based on a lot of documents that Osama bin Laden used Saudi people in that event for one main purpose, is to destroy this relation, to destroy the American-Saudi relation. That's the purpose of 9/11. So whoever buying that means they are helping Osama bin Laden's purpose of destroying this relation. He knows that strong relation between America and Saudi Arabia, it's bad for extremism, it's bad for terrorism. And we have to prove him wrong.
Wow, I had no idea that Osama bin Laden was driven by trying to destroy the U.S.-Saudi Arabia business relationship. I'm kind of impressed he was able to convince 19 people to go on a suicide mission to stop a deal. Dude should have been in marketing. Now, Trump seemed very supportive of the Saudi Crown Prince in public, but it's worth noting that quietly under the radar, 2 days later, a South Florida retiree who had been detained in Saudi Arabia for 4 years over social media posts criticizing the Crown Prince returned home to his son. So maybe Trump wasn't quite as 100% pro-Salman behind the doors. As with everything, there's a lot of they said going on. But given Saudi Arabia's history of human rights abuses, censoring of free speech, sometimes with machetes, allegedly, and the alleged 9/11 of it all, what's making the U.S. so accommodating to such a potentially toxic ally?
We are going to increase that $600 billion to almost $1 trillion of investment.
Of course! Silly me. I totally forgot how rich they are. And the rich and powerful could never do anything nefarious, right? And speaking of Trump and his administration's wonderful relationship with both reporters and other politicians, earlier this week, 6 Democratic members of Congress put out a viral video. In it, they said this.
We want to speak directly to members of the military
and the intelligence community
who take risks each day to keep Americans safe.
This administration is pitting our uniformed military
and intelligence community professionals
against American citizens.
Our laws are clear. You can refuse illegal orders.
You can refuse illegal orders.
You must refuse illegal orders.
No one has to carry out orders that violate the law or our Constitution.
Are you as confused as I am right now? What illegal orders are they talking about exactly? Of course, Trump reacted to this with his usual grace and poise by calling the video seditious behavior from traitors punishable by death. You know, when it comes to good looks, Trump's looking a little empty-handed right now. Of course, Press Secretary Caroline Leavitt tried to smooth things over a bit, but that didn't end up going well either.
Why aren't you talking about what these members of Congress are doing to encourage and incite violence? They are literally saying to 1.3 million active duty service members not to defy the chain of command, not to follow lawful orders.
Actually,
every single
you can refuse an illegal order, which is
they're suggesting, Nancy, that the president has given illegal orders, which he has not.
Yeah, somehow I don't think that makes Trump look any better. I also don't see how telling people not to do something is encouraging or inciting violence. Somehow I'm reminded of another time that a Trump administration official went after speech the administration didn't like.
There's free speech, and then there's hate speech.
We've come full circle to Trump's good look debt. President Trump says potential $2,000 dividend checks comprised of tariff revenue could go out to individuals of low or moderate income in mid-2026. Woo! $2,000, baby! I'm already pre-ordering the re-release of Gilmore Girls 8K on Blu-ray, just in case my re-releases get damaged. But there is one thing I don't understand, which is why the checks aren't coming until mid-2026. What's the holdup? Is something happening later in 2026? Some mid-term thing? I'm sure it's just the snail-like pace of bureaucracy, though I wouldn't pin my hopes on getting that tariff dividend. Traders bet the Supreme Court won't back Trump on tariffs, and Trump himself has reversed course and brought down tariffs on coffee, bananas, tomatoes, and beef imports. So Trump might be making a promise he can't keep, which is crazy, because that's something a politician has never done. Looks like I'm gonna have to wait to get that re-release of Gilmore Girls 8K on Blu-ray. Wait another 17 hours because I already ordered it 3 weeks ago. Worth it. Speaking of timeless, comedic, juicy dramas, Democratic infighting. A Siena College poll showed that Chuck Schumer is the most unpopular he's ever been. Which is impressive because when has he ever been in the same orbit as semi-popular? Chuck Schumer is like if Woody Allen didn't have the charisma to date his own daughter. Only 32% of New York State voters polled had a favorable view of the senator, which coincides with calls from within his own party to step down. Of course, if he doesn't step down, he might be put down, as there are rumblings of Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez primarying him in 2028 and taking his Senate seat. And polls show AOC dominating him in that matchup. Though to be fair, a geriatric French bulldog would also dominate him in that matchup, mostly because people would have a hard time telling them apart. And the Democrat Senate leader might not be the only one getting primaried. New York City Councilor member and Democratic Socialist Chi Osei filed paperwork to run a primary against House Minority Leader Hakeem Jeffries. The progressives are mutinying against the old guard. It's a socialist takeover, is what I'd be saying if it weren't for the fact that AOC actually said this wasn't a good idea. I know, a Democratic Socialist not having a good idea. What's next? KFC selling chicken? So it appears the old guard is fighting the new guard, Democratic Socialists are disagreeing with Democratic Socialists, and despite winning big in the most recent elections, the Democratic ship seems directionless and without strong leadership. Also, Democratic representative from Florida, Sheila Sherfilis McCormick, was indicted on charges of stealing $5 million in FEMA disaster funds back in 2021. Republicans should be loving all this, except they're also having their own issues. There's plenty of infighting in the GOP over Nick Fuentes, and alignment shifts thanks to the Epstein files. I'm starting to suspect the rigid two-party system is a bad idea, since the sheer diversity of thought between the hundreds of millions of people in this country can't just be narrowed down to a simple binary. There's an obvious solution here. Throw away democracy and make me, Chris Chappell, undisputed supreme leader for life. We can finally stop all this division. Don't think of it as a no-party system. Think of it as an after-party system, followed by mass executions. But the U.S. might be getting closer to doing away with democracy anyway because a Texas federal judge blocked Texas from using its newly redrawn voting maps in the 2026 midterms. These liberal judges are out of control. They need to be, the judge is a Republican who was appointed by Trump. Like I said, diversity of thought. So gerrymandering is bad and this got struck down. That's good, right? Well, given how the American court system works, there is a high likelihood of this being appealed and these new struck down districts being unstruck and put back. And if they're not, well, this brings up the issue of California's Prop 50, where voters elected to have their own voting maps redrawn. California Governor Gavin Newsom said Donald Trump and Texas Governor Greg Abbott played with fire and got burned. Well, now that, for now anyways, Texas's gerrymandering has been stopped, California won't gerrymander their state, right? After all, if anyone knows anything about politicians, it's that they just love giving up power. But hey, Democrats are doing a great job in California. I mean, it's not like the state is facing a projected $18 billion deficit. That'd be embarrassing for Newsom in his last year as governor as he gears up for a presidential bid. Prop 50 was sold entirely as a countermeasure to fight fire with fire over gerrymandering. Now that that fire has been potentially put out in Texas, will California back down and not redraw their maps, or continue fighting nothing with fire? Either way, I wouldn't put a lot of faith in California knowing how to manage fires. They make the state look like a real Handmaid's Tale. Is that the right reference? I don't know. I still haven't seen it. And remember, don't buy Made in China this Christmas. Support my Unmade in China Christmas shopping catalog by supporting my Give, Send, Go campaign. Click below. I'm Chris Chappell. Thanks for watching America Uncovered.